Hey guys, I'm Chef T-Max. Welcome back to the kitchen. Today, we're gonna do a really cool bread. And it's a little bit, I think it's easier than actually doing traditional bread because it's gonna be gluten-free. So many of you out there are looking for gluten-free bread, and this is a great recipe and super easy to make. So we're gonna get started in a second, but if you are not following me, click subscribe right there. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video and ring that bell, and I'll send you great things I have coming up. So I'll see you back in the kitchen in a second. Okay, so we're back. We're going to start with this. One of the things you have to do with this bread, this gluten-free bread, is we're going to use buckwheat. So green buckwheat is gluten-free, even though it sounds like it's got wheat in there and it's going to have gluten in it, but it doesn't. So what we're going to need to do is I'm going to take a cup of this, okay? And later we'll weigh it out like when we're doing our bread recipe. But right now what I want to do is basically I want to pour it in here, and I want to, we don't need to rinse it really yet because we're going to soak it. And after we soak it, we can rinse it later. So I take 1 cup, because about 1 cup soaked is going to be what we're going to use for this recipe. And this is going to make like a nice small loaf pan. So you can try this, and when you look at the size of it when it's done, if you decide you want to expand it and make 3 of them, you can expand it, right? So it doesn't matter, we don't have to measure the water, we just need to soak it with plenty of water. So I put 1 cup inside of a quart container and I close it, right, like this. And I'm gonna soak this overnight in here. So I just move it around in there a little bit. You can see the water's in there with my, my buckwheat, and that buckwheat needs to soak. It's gonna hydrate really nice like this, and tomorrow you're gonna see how simple this process is, and you're gonna wanna make this bread. So stay with me, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Hey guys, okay, here we are the next day. We're back to make our beautiful gluten-free bread, and I've got my buckwheat in here. Again, buckwheat is free of gluten. It's not closely related to the wheat family. It's actually, I think it's related to the rhubarb and sorrel family of all things, but it's high. It's high in nutrition, but it's not. There's no gluten in there, so it's really good for you. And with this, I'm just going to kind of. You can see how slimy it gets. Kind of slimy, and that's great. That's like flax and all these. Anything that gets slimy like this is really good for you. When it comes to your digestive tract, because all of that helps to pick up things in our digestive tract. Now, what I want to do is I want to weigh this, okay? So I'm going to put this on a scale, and I'm going to weigh it. It's terrible, right? I can't see those tiny numbers without my glasses. So with this, I'm going to put it in here like this, and I've got 300 grams is what I want. So that's 300 grams. Now 300 grams is the measurement that I have for this, and I try to be pretty particular with these types of things because of the fact that you're really working with something that's more scientific when you're dealing with bread. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, and I set this for milliliters and press it to zero it out, and I'm going to put 120 milliliters of water. Here's 106, 120 exactly, okay? So 120 milliliters of water, okay? 300 milliliters of my soaked mixture here, and I'm going to pour it into my blender. You can use any bar blender. I tend to use these NutriBullets a lot because they're just easy to use, and they're small enough where it fits like portion size for what I usually use. So I'm going to blend this, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I'm back. Now, I've got this blended, and I want to show you the consistency of it. Let's take a look at this really quick. Let's move my scale out of the way here. And let's look at the consistency. Now, the consistency is very watery, right? See that dripping like this? I'm going to put it in here. Now, it looks like almost like a crepe batter at this point. But what's going to happen to this is there's so much fiber in this, and it's going to really come together. Okay, so now we're going to mix all of our other ingredients in here while this sits. As it sits, it's going to thicken up. It's kind of like if you use flaxseed, or you use there's a lot of different seeds too that once you kind of add water and puree them up, they're going to get thickness to them. So with this, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now, what does the apple cider vinegar do? We're not using yeast in this bread. So the apple cider vinegar is going to act as kind of our rising agent, because if you put apple cider vinegar and baking powder together, what happens? It creates bubbles and airiness, right? And that's what we're going to use. Some people don't like to use yeast, and so that's why we're going to make our own natural bubbles by using these two. Now, I'm going to put a little sweetener in there too. My sweetener is going to be natural maple syrup. So this is vegan as well, right? So vegan and gluten-free. Wow, that's a lot of happiness for some people out there. I can put some bacon in it at the end if you like, though. I'm going to put a half a teaspoon of salt. So I've got a 1/4 teaspoon here, so I'm going to do 2 of those. So there's 1, 2. That makes a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I want to do baking powder, so I just use my little baking powder here. And again, this is a 1/4, so I'm going to do 2. So there's 1, 2. Now, because I just put the baking powder in there, what I want to do is I want to mix it up a little bit to get it activating with my beautiful like vinegar too, and that's going to help. It's going to start to bubble, okay? And that's what we want. All right. Now, the rest of this is going to be flavorings and nutrition, like flaxseed I have here. So flaxseed, I'm going to put a tablespoon of flaxseed powder. So you can just buy flax seeds and you grind them up in your spice grinder, and then I usually keep them in a mason jar like this already ground, so they're easy to use. Again, this is just going to, I spilled maple syrup, but that's always a great thing, right? The flaxseed also is going to be, a thickener in this, so it helps to thicken things up, and it gives it nutrition, right? Here I've got a chili. This is a Pakistani red chili that a friend gave me. Uma, who you've seen in my things. I'm only going to put a 1/4 of that because it's a very spicy chili. So in comparison to cayenne, okay, and even has a more interesting flavor than that. And then I've got turmeric. I'm going to put a half of the turmeric. So with the turmeric, let me put 1/2 of a teaspoon, because I like it for the flavor, the color it gives to this dough. It's really, really nice. And then I've got coriander powder over here too. So I just keep mason jars full of all my spices, and I keep it in my dark cupboard there. Now this one, coriander powder, you can use a half a tablespoonful. So I'm going to use half of this, okay? And because coriander powder is not as strong, right? So you can put more of it, right? And I'm going to mix all those spices in. So I have salt in here. Salt's going to bring out the flavor in the dough. Okay, we've already got the salt. The baking soda and the vinegar act as your activator. Now the other flavorings in here are all really, it's really up to you. If you don't want to put in turmeric, you don't want to put in coriander, you don't have to do that. Even flax seeds, you don't have to put in those. You could put in hemp seeds instead if you wanted to. Grind up some of your hemp seeds and put your hemp seed in here. That's all just nutritional stuff that makes this bread good for you, right? That's what we're trying to do. And then I'm going to put in a tablespoon of olive oil. So extra virgin, of course, right? We want nice flavor in this dough, like this, okay? And from here, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to add a couple things to this. I want to add some apricots in here. So I have some dried apricot, like this, see? And I'm just going to probably do what I think is appropriate amount for, I'll have to sneak those in. Apricots clean the metal in your body out. That's what I've been told by physicians. So what's not good about that? We should be eating apricots all the time then if it's cleaning the excess metal in our system. That's what, a lot of times people, they say it attributes to Alzheimer's, the metal in your body, the buildup over the years. So we definitely want to do what we can to get rid of that. So with this, I'm just going to dice these apricots up like this, and I'm going to put them in my dough. I love apricots. If you don't like apricots, then it's too bad for you because they're really good. But if you don't like them, you can add diced dates. Dates are really nice for this too. They add a sweetness, they add a nutrition. If I was putting dates, I'd probably put like half the amount of my maple syrup. Okay, now the last ingredient is Physillium. Physillium is a seed, it's a plant that grows, the seed gets off of there and they dry it and puree it up. It's got it's used as a dietary fiber. It's also used as a thickener in food processing. It's healthy, it's good for you. It's a beautiful fiber for you actually. You can use it to, if you have constipation, this kind of things. It doesn't, it's a light on your system, so it's really good for you. So with this, we're going to use 1.5 tablespoons. Keep getting. Now I have olive oil and maple syrup, and I'll tell you what, it's a good combination. Just try it sometime. So now with this, we're going to spread this around. Now, because this has got so much kind of starch in there, right? It's going to thicken this thing up. And this is what's going to bring your dough really together is this Physillium. So the Physillium, we just want to mix it in there really nice. That's why I like to mix the apricots in there first, because then you can mix them around. Because as soon as you get this in here, it's going to start to firm up. And flax does that too. The flaxseed powder is going to do that to your batter too. Not as much as Physillium, but like I said, these seeds have this binding ability, right? So we're just going to kind of mix this. Now, you see this is mixed. So it's like oatmeal. Imagine when you make oatmeal. What happens when you cook oatmeal? You cook oatmeal and then it sits warm there for a little bit. And if you let it sit too long, what happens? It firms up, right? So that's kind of what happens with this. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff here and clean my station here. And then I'm going to get this little cute, look at this cute little guy, right? Get yourself some little molds. Now, like I said, this is one batch. You can make more of these if you'd like as well. And then I'm going to put some olive oil in there. I'm going to oil them. And I'm going to oil this thing all around. Okay, like this. And I'm doing this because I'm going to put some type of adhesive on here. Now, you could do different things. Some people like to use seeds, like sesame seeds. Some people like to use flax seeds, hemp seeds. There's a lot of different seeds you could use. Today, because, I wanted to have a little bit of kind of tropicalness to this, I'm going to add some coconut flakes. So olive oil there. We're going to sprinkle the coconut flakes in there. That's more than enough, right? And then what I do is I just kind of put it around like this. Now you could just do oil if you wanted to, but what's the fun in that, right? And then I put these dry ones back in like this. And that's going to give me this kind of nice little coating of coconut on there. All right, so there we go. And then my dough, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait for about 5 minutes to let this firm up. You can even see it's already, you see how that's starting to firm up already? Like how it's, look how I can mold it now, right? So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna preheat my oven, 350 degrees for about 20 minutes, and I'm gonna let this sit for 20 minutes. We're gonna pour it in here and we're gonna bake it. And then I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. So I'll see you guys back in a little bit. Okay, you guys, you can see how, look how firm this is. See, if it's a little sticky to my finger, so you can see it's sticky like that, so I'm not going to kind of pick it up and mold it like a dough, but it's firmed up like a dough ball, right? And with that, we're just going to simply take this thing and I'm just going to roll it around and I'm going to shape it. I'm going to put it right in my container like this. Look at that. Perfect, right? And I'm going to press it. You can press it down now. You see how this makes a perfect amount for this? So this is like the perfect amount. And that's it. Now that, we're going to go ahead and throw that in the oven, 350 for 40 minutes. And then I take it out of that and we're going to put it on a rack for another 20 minutes. Hey guys, we're back in the kitchen now after about 40, well, it's actually been an hour because it's about 40 minutes that this took in the oven inside the container. And then I plopped it out onto this piece of foil and left it in there for 20 more minutes to get this nice golden crust on there. So you can see how beautiful this looks, right? It's got the coconuts kind of embedded in it a little bit. And we're gonna go ahead and slice it, check it out. I usually let this cool for an hour or so, but it's been about 20 minutes since I pulled it out. Because you want the heat to kind of go all the way through the center and cook it nice and evenly. So we're going to cut this and boom, there's your bread. So you can see it's still a little hot. I probably would have left it a little bit longer, so I'm not going to cut any more of it. I'm just going to cut this piece here. And then you have this beautiful piece here. Now you can see that you've got your little holes in here. That's created from the baking powder and the vinegar reacting and giving us a little bit of bubbles in the center of this as it cooks. And then you've got those creamy pieces of apricot. Now, let's try this. Now, this is, yes, is this a denser bread? It's gluten-free. It's going to be a denser bread. But, wow. Coconut's great in this too. Coconut and apricot are surprisingly a great combination. Because they're really two things that are kind of far apart usually, but that's delicious. Because of the apricots, it has a sweet feel to it. So if you're not vegan, because this is vegan and it's gluten-free, if you're not vegan, you could have this. It would be really nice with some cheese, really nice creamy cheese with the sweetness of that. And it just, I'm just going to put a little bit of almond butter on this like this. That's a high protein, high fiber, high nutrition bread, no gluten at all. You can make an avocado toast out of it if you want. You want to leave the apricot out and you want to put other seeds in there. You could put cinnamon in it. Quinoa is really nice too. Sometimes I make quinoa powder, or you can put quinoa seeds on the outside, and it's fantastic. So I would highly suggest trying, even if you're not gluten-free, try this bread at home because it's healthy and you can eat it all the time and not feel guilty. And it's super simple. You see how simple that was? You can make one or multiply the recipe and make 2 or 3 at a time. Once it's cold, you can wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in the freezer, and then just slice them, microwave them for a touch, or put them in your toaster to toast them up. And it's gonna be fantastic. So I hope you enjoy this gluten-free bread, and I hope to see you in the kitchen soon. I'm Chef Dean Max.